Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and it's week 17, and it's Friday. You know what that means. It's time to talk some props, and to help us do it, of course, is the Welsh, Chris Welsh, hot off of Christmas, ready to rock and roll, and, of course, the Undertaker himself, Andrew Underson. We're just going to keep pushing all of the unders as much as we possibly can, and we're going to try to, who knows, maybe we'll shake a couple overs. Yesterday on the show with Bogman, in case you missed it, came out of the gate hot with an over. It was very unlike him. I think he was still a little, dipping into the eggnog, if you know what I mean, there from the holidays. But regardless, make sure you are following us on social media. Make sure you are subscribing to the YouTube channel here at Betting Pros, and make sure you ring that bell till it goes ding for notifications. And remember, if you're a subscriber and you're a good boy or girl and drop a comment below, you just might win a 1-year free premium upgrade to Betting Pros. That's right, the greatest betting tools in the history of the universe can be yours. All you have to do is comment, subscribe, like the video. Little things like that go a long way, and you just might be the big winner. And don't forget, it's not just NFL. We've also got NBA in these parts too. Fast break bets with Matt Modi every Wednesday, every Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, live with the man talking NBA. Gentlemen, let's get right into it. Let's come in hot here for week 17. We're off to a fun start. Joe Flacco, elite Joe Flacco, Andrew Erickson. What'd you think of him last night there, buddy? Another 300-yard game for Joey?
I mean, I turned the game off after the first drive because I was screwed. So I knew immediately when they were not tackling David Njoku, I was like, well, this is not going to end well. So, again, apologies out for people that I didn't think you should have started Joe Flacco in fantasy leagues. I was on the under. So, again, I was
on the under too, but I was still starting him. I was in those things like, well, it's not going to be as good.
But even like, look, 9 times out of 10, the process works. I mean, his number one wide receiver didn't even play in the game.
Nope.
Like, against the Jets, like, I would have made that decision 9 times out of 10.
Can you even believe we're sitting here talking about week 17 in 2023, not 2003? We're like, of course we should have started Joe Flacco. It didn't matter. Joe Flacco was chalk. What are we doing?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I feel like 2013, like that's like the peak Joe Flacco, right? So around 2013, probably, right? That was about the Super Bowl run.
That's about like the same
I just forget that when this guy gets hot, he is unstoppable, just like during the Ravens playoff run. Like I think he was perfect, like 10 touchdowns, no picks, and he was on fire, and he's on fire right now.
You ever kick yourself too when you have a bet that you're just kind of sitting on, and you're like, I think I want to do this, and then right before the game, you're just like, I'm just not going to. That was Njoku receiving yards for me last night. I was ready. I was going. I'm like, I'm going to do it. And I'm like, this is a weird game. I'm not going to do it. First drive, it cashes, and you're just like,
Can you believe that it took Joe Flacco to unlock David Njoku all these years? Like, that's the thing to me that is even equal parts exciting and upsetting. But regardless, enough about elite Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns headed to the playoffs. Erickson, give us the first of the many props that you've got lined up for week 17.
Looking at the Detroit Lions, Dallas Cowboys game, I love the over in this game overall. So I like some of the player prop overs. Jahmyr Gibbs over 48.5 rushing yards. It's just too low based on the fact that he's a super explosive running back with the ball in his hands. He's gone over this number 5 straight games. He's failed to hit 50 rushing yards one time since week 5. Guys, it's week 17. It's been since week 5 since he has not hit at least 50 rushing yards. So given how bad Dallas's run defense has been over the last couple of weeks, second most rushing yards allowed per game to running backs the last 4 weeks, I just think this is a really easy bet. I get that the usage isn't always ideal for him because he's still splitting carries with Dave Montgomery, but Gibbs is a back where he can get this on one carry. Like, he doesn't need necessarily a lot of touches to get there. So I think there's so many avenues where he gets over this number, and he's shown week in and week out that he's clearly surpassing 50 rushing yards. So the matchup is good, high scoring game. He's explosive, checks off all the boxes of an over that I really like this week.
Yeah, it's hard not to like this one. It's a lower number too, and Gibbs obviously starting to emerge here in the second half of the season as a stud, which is what we thought he would be. It just takes a little time sometimes for those rookies to really catch up to the NFL style of play, and certainly Jahmyr Gibbs has caught up to that. Welsh, let's kick things off with you. Week 17, what do you have for the people?
I love that one, by the way. I just want to throw that out here. I'm going to go with a low rushing yard total from a wide receiver. Give me Deebo Samuel rushing yards, 11.5 over 7 of 10 games. He's received 2 or more carries this season. He's averaging around 5.4 yards per rush. Commanders are giving up the 4th most rushing yards over the last month. And this is the time where the 49ers probably lay back a tiny bit on McCaffrey. Yes, we could see some Mason, but we're getting multiple carries from Deebo Samuel. They are absolutely atrocious, the Commanders are, at stopping the run. One big play is going to be great for Deebo here. When he gets 3, he's hit this total every single time but 1 this season. Commanders are going to be washed in this situation. 49ers are pissed, and we're going to give the ball to Deebo on the ground. I actually think it's an Ayuk game in the air. So Deebo, multiple carries, over 11.5 rushing yards. He would have hit this in 3 of the last 5. One of those actually was 11 yards rushing, but he has hit this at least 2 of the last 5. Give me Deebo rushing yards as an easy low prop total for this week.
Welsh, I made a bold prediction on the Fantasy Pros pod the other day that CMC is going to have 200 all-purpose yards. What do you think? I think this is the nuclear, as Erickson likes to call it, game for Christian McCaffrey. He plants his flag as the real MVP. What do you say about that?
Did he say that wrong? I always say the word wrong.
Derek always says nuclear. He ends.
I do the same thing. I do.
Yeah,
it's our dumb brain. It's when the dumb brain comes out.
Yeah,
whatever. It's a possibility. I mean, I just laid out. Also, the Washington has given up the most fantasy points for running backs over the last month. They're garbage. My only counter to that in general is just the 49ers maybe laying back a tiny bit with 2 games to go. They have to prep themselves for the playoffs. Do you want to get 25, 30 touches to Christian McCaffrey? I'm not 100% sure. I'd like to get Deebo keep going. I think it's a possibility. I'm here for it, but I do think in the rushing game, you could see a little bit more Mason and a little bit more Deebo.
All right, let's see a little bit more Erickson and see what he has for us in week 17.
Yeah, sticking with that 49ers Commanders game, I'm actually going to go under on George Kittle and his receptions prop.
Oh,
the
which prop? The receptions prop?
The receptions prop, because that's how I talked about it the last time, and it hit. So I'm bringing it back right now. 3.5 receptions for George Kittle going under. If you look at the Commanders' defense, they're bad against everything. We know that. The one thing that they're not as bad against is tight ends. 8th fewest receptions allowed to tight ends this season, 4.3 per game. And we look at George Kittle, he's only gone over 3.5 catches in 3 games played this year with a healthy Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. Last week, he had 7 catches. The 49ers were a negative game script. Are they going to be trailing at any point in this game against the Commanders? Probably not. So more often than not, Kittle's not the featured piece in this offense when they're cooking against a really bad defense. It's not George Kittle. Like Welsh said, thinks it's going to be a Brandon Ayuk game. I agree. So for me, I'm going to take the under on George Kittle and his catches. You can actually get this number on FanDuel at 4.5.
Okay, there you go. Under on Kittle. So we hit the 49ers pretty hard, but maybe not hard enough because, Welsh, you want to hit it one more time.
Yeah, and I didn't realize we were doing all these. We have some funny stuff this week because Erickson and I didn't even post mine until literally before the show, so I didn't even see what he had. I am going with another 49ers and an under here. And I am attacking Brock Purdy. This actually works well with the Kittle one as well. Purdy has hit this only once in his last 3 games, going over 267.5. That's his passing yard total this week, 267.5. So he's hit this only once. He has not completed 20 passes in 4 straight games. So per game, he has not hit 20 completions in 4 straight. He's only attempted 30 or more passes in 1 of 4 games. But you say he went over 300 yards in 2 of those games. It's big, huge plays. Washington is giving up the 4th least pass attempts over the last month because you can run on them. That's what you do here. Everything also talking about the 49ers maybe laying back. Just want to point out PFF projections have them around 230. But with the playoffs looming, not only do I think you kind of set it back on McCaffrey, but Purdy was in a bad situation last week. I don't think you want him to throw 35, 40 times. You don't need Purdy to win this game. I think efficiency is going to be where everything is at from the run game, short passes, clock management. I like anything under 250, and I'm getting 267. I'm taking the under on Brock Purdy passing yards.
I already bet this one, too. I think it's just a very heavy Christian McCaffrey day, hence my earlier statement about the 200 AP yards. I think he's going to go over 100 and plus rushing yards, maybe 120, something, 125, so in that range. And I think he's going to have a fair amount of receiving yards, but I think it's going to be all Christian McCaffrey in this one. And they just go in there, run CMC, run him all over the muck there, all over against Washington. And that's it. That's all you need to do to win this football game and then keep everybody else healthy. All right, let's get to Andrew Erickson for another one of your prop bets for week 17. Andrew, what do you have?
Saquon Barkley under 67.5 rushing yards against the Los Angeles Rams. Look, the Los Angeles Rams have been one of the best run defenses over the last couple weeks. Looking at since week 10, they've not allowed a running back to surpass 70 yards against them, and they haven't allowed more than 65 rush yards, or there's only one running back that's rushed for 65 yards against them since week 6. Like, Saquon Barkley is super boomer bust. Like, he's had big games and he's had games where he completely disappears. Following just the trajectory and the pattern of Saquon Barkley coming off a big game, he's probably going to underwhelm here, and the matchup is brutal, like I alluded to, just kind of talking about how good the Rams' run defense has been. They're much weaker against the pass. So I'm going to go Saquon Barkley under 67.5 rushing yards, which is the best number I can find over on FanDuel.
And Welsh, once again, Erickson's your soulmate because you also have Saquon Barkley this week as one of your top 5 props. So let's get your perspective on the same under.
No, I mean, he absolutely nailed it. This is the one we were laughing about because I've been a little bit more compelled. By the way, I wasn't amazing last week, but I nailed my Lamar Jackson under. So those unders definitely are tantalizing, and I feel more compelled when I'm on this show. And this was the one that stood out to me, and you kind of nailed it. The Rams have not let a running back to hit this number. And by the way, this number I found at 64.5 on DK. So FanDuel, you can get a bigger number. A running back could not hit this in 6 straight weeks. Barkley has also only hit this marker 2 of the last 4 weeks, and he needed 20 or more carries to do it. I do not believe you're giving him 20 carries in this game. This is a game where if he's doing anything, it's probably in the air. Underwhelming was a great version and answer of this, and I'm going to take that under, and I will gladly take that FanDuel number at 67.5 over my 64.5.
All right, so Barkley under for everybody this week. By the way, I just love the Rams. Just want to mention that in this game, or he teased them up to 9.5. I think the Rams are rolling. I think the Rams are a very dangerous team right now. The way that offense is clicking, I don't think you want to play the Rams in the first round of the playoffs if you're any team in the NFC.
Do you think that the 49ers might be looking ahead a little bit because they have to play the Rams week 18?
Ooh, a little college football look-ahead situation after they just got beat down?
Because after had they beaten...
But they are playing the Commanders.
No, look, the Commanders are just so bad, I don't think it matters.
They're a joke, but that's what I mean. They're a joke.
But here's the thing. You can look ahead and still beat the Commanders, I think. Had they beaten the Ravens, I would be a little bit more concerned. Had they beaten the Ravens handily, then I could see, whatever. But, that Rams game is going to be very telling. Also, depending on who wins and loses this week, it depends on how important that game is in Week 18, really, for the 49ers at the end of the day, too. So,
if I'm the 49ers, I want to make sure I knock the Rams out of the playoffs. So
yes,
you don't want to play. You don't want them to be in the playoffs. Correct me if I'm wrong.
If they win this week and a few other things happen, that might not happen. Yeah. They might be locked up no matter what, potentially even if they lose that game. So lots of moving pieces.
Is it smart to let Sean McVay in the playoffs?
I'm with you. I don't, like I said, I don't want to see the Rams a week. But you know
what? Are you
trying
to take Washington money? Are you trying to take the spread on Washington?
Yes, 100%. Double-digit dogs at home. Yes,
it is
please.
A lot.
Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett is significantly better than Sam Howell.
Look, I'm with Erickson. It was one of my top 10 bets this week, was taking the Commander side of the 13.5 because it's such a large number on the road. It's just one of those things. The backdoor cover is frustrating. It's a big number.
All Jacoby Brissett has done is come in and backdoor cover the last 2 weeks.
It's true. And I will say this, too. The concept that you're looking at, too, is I don't think there's any necessarily fear of the 49ers losing this game or not looking like they're in control of this game. But again, 13.5, it's a huge number on the road for any team to cover. And maybe, just maybe, we get a little 49er, situation where we're dominant. We take our foot off the gas a little bit. At the end, Jacoby Brissett kind of makes it just squeak by into that cover. I know, Welsh, it doesn't seem from your face that you're buying it, but 13.5.
I got your backdoor cover right here.
You got your backdoor cover right here? Go get your shine box. All right, let's go to the next one on our list here. And we're going to go back to... wait, we just did you, Erickson, did we not?
We did the Barkley one.
Well, we were together, so you go back to Erickson.
Barkley and Barkley, my favorite law firm. So let's go back to Erickson again for another running back. Let's talk about Bijan Robinson.
Hoping, I'm going to dip my toes back in the Arthur Smith well here with Bijan Robinson. Over 22.5 receiving yards. Look, Arthur Smith can do what he wants, but I still think just given the matchup against the Chicago Bears, who are the league's worst team at defending running backs in the passing game, I'm just going to put my faith in Bijan Robinson, seeing enough usage to get it done. I mean, he ran 30-plus routes last week. He has the most absolute insane usage as a receiver out of the backfield for the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, the guy led the team in receiving yards last week. He had 7 catches. He had 10 targets last week. Like, if the game plan is like, we're going to get Bijan the ball through the air, then he's going to fly over this number potentially on the first drive. A little David Njoku-esque. So I like Bijan Robinson here against the Bears, who are allowing the most receiving yards by a lot, by over 10 yards to running backs this season.
All right, there you go. So Bijan Robinson back on the board again, but we're going to go the over here this time for him. All right, let's get back to that Giants-Rams game because it's hard to tell which wide receiver we're going to pinpoint, but you got feelings, Welsh, about Cooper Kupp this week.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that. We just did the matchup preview show for Week 17, if anyone wants to check it out, with the great Deebo and Pat Fitzmaurice. And one of the things I had posed to them was these guys are not, quote, eating together, Puka and Cooper Kupp. They had a 9-point fantasy point differential between each other for 4 straight weeks. It's one guy that goes every single week. This is a killer matchup. So there's a part of the question is like, who do you believe is going to go? One of those guys likes Kupp. One of those guys likes Puka. This might just be one of those weeks that it doesn't actually matter. Kupp has a receiving yard prop of 68.5. He has hit this in 2 of his last 3 games and had 6 or more receptions in 4 straight games against the Eagles last week. Both wide receivers were able to hit this marker against the defense. Projections are very interesting too, because the yard prop is in favor of Puka, but projections this week are in favor of Cooper Kupp. I think the targets speak well. I think the matchup speaks well. Cooper Kupp is going to be able to hit this. I don't mind both of them, but you're under 70 yards for Kupp. You're over 70. I think it's 72 for Puka Nacua. I'm going to say Cooper Kupp has a huge week for this Rams team that is down to beat, like not just like slightly beat teams. They are down to beat. So Cooper Kupp, 68.5. Give me that receiving yards over.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite bets of the week actually is to take the Rams and take the Kyren Williams anytime touchdown score and put those things. To me, that's the easiest way to attack this game. I know you're getting juice on both those things, but that's how you get into the positive. Like I just think Rams 5.5, Kyren Williams anytime touchdown score. You put them together, you get plus 163. That's just an easy big time. Like you could put a couple units on that, come away with a really good day. And then separately go for Cooper Kupp or Puka or whatever else you want to do in that game. But to me, just go right for the gut there. You just take what you got. How good, by the way, has Kyren Williams been down this stretch, Welsh? Just
he's been amazing. And that's actually kind of one of the things you can look at with this game too. Is it's like, is it gonna be just more Kyren and it's gonna take away and they're gonna score and it's gonna take away from the passing side? Kyren, I believe, is in the negative juice, where Kupp and Puka are both plus 110 at least on DK for anytime touchdowns.
Plus 105 on FanDuel for Kupp, plus 110 for Puka. So yeah, they're telling you, Vegas is telling you, we expect Rams scoring. That's what we expect.
A lot of Rams scoring. Yeah, the only thing I'm afraid of is it just happens all super quick, defensive touchdowns and stuff like that. I think I'm telling you right now, I think Cooper Kupp could take this in the first half. I think he could take this receiving yard total in the first half. It's one of my favorite bets this week.
All right, Erickson, one more for you. We also got anytime touchdown calls coming too, but one more prop for you, Erickson. What's on the board for you in Week 17?
Javonte Williams over 2.5 catches against the Chargers. So every running back, not named James Cook, because James Cook let us down last week and couldn't feed my kids, so it was very, very sad.
If only you had
every
kids.
other running back not named James Cook has gone over their catches prop. 9 of the last 11 have gone over their receiving yards prop. So Williams has 3+ catches, 9 of his 13 games played this year. He's gone over in 7 of his last 9 games. Now, having Jarrett Stidham under center does add another wrinkle here, but the odds or the prop bet is at plus money. So you're getting it plus 115 at BetMGM. So I think even with Jarrett Stidham, I still expect the running backs to be heavily involved in the passing game. We still don't know the status of Courtland Sutton. So they just don't have any receivers that Jarrett Stidham can even use as the starter. So even though he's not, I think, as much of a check down guy as Russell Wilson, I just think that the running backs are so involved in this offensive philosophy anyway that Williams continues to see work through the air, especially in a great matchup.
Do you even have pets, Erickson? Do you have a pet?
Oh, yeah.
Can't have a pet where I live. I'm not allowed to.
What about Tamagotchi? You got one of those things? He's got ones like from 1998 that's still alive.
I would like to see that. I'd like to see a video series of you growing it.
There's no way it would still be alive.
Erickson got it 2 days later. Tamagotchi's dead. That's it. What happens when those died? Did you have to reprogram it?
You just stop playing.
It should almost be like the thing fries.
Game over.
I remember my little cousin wanted them one year when she was little. This was way back in the late 90s, so we got her a couple of them. But I was always wondering, what? So if you don't take care of it, it dies. But it's digital. You just reset it and it comes back to life. That's not really. I guess that's reincarnation. I get that. There you go. That's what that is. Boy, things got real deeper in the show real fast. Yeah. All right, let's go back to you, Welsh. One more prop before the anytime touchdown calls.
Yeah, CJ Stroud is back, so that means Nico Collins is back. Nico, I saw this stat. I got to credit the person. I don't remember where I saw it from, but Nico Collins in home games this year, averaging over 100 yards receiving and that is obviously with CJ Stroud. He did not hit against the Jets and Cleveland most recently what this number would be. Really, really tough defenses. But the 3 games prior, he had at least 7 receptions and hit this receiving yard prop of 56.5. The most important thing here is that CJ Stroud is back, and he makes Nico Collins better, also makes Noah Brown better, which I'm into, but I think Nico is going to absolutely eat, and I might even get crazy this week and mess around with a little alt yards on Cooper Kupp and Nico and put those together, maybe a little 80 plus alt on both for plus money. But Nico, I think on Fantasy Pros consensus ranks also has been put in as like a top 14, 15 wide receiver. Home games, Stroud, matchup, Nico, cash.
Lots of good things there. Like all of those words, especially when you say them one at a time like that. Makes a nice emphasis. All right, gentlemen, last week you really went off the deep end. I know it was the holidays. You guys were a little burnt out, but Tanner Hudson did not score a touchdown, nor did Boston Scott. So let's come back to earth, gentlemen. Let's give something for the people here. Let's atone for our sins of last week, shall we? Erickson, who do you have that's going to score a touchdown this week? And I'm a little worried that we're going to go off the deep end again here with yours.
No, because my analysis is not a narrative-driven thing. There is actual analysis behind this one. So Austin Hooper plus 500 to score a touchdown this week against the Colts. You look at the Colts defense; they gave up a touchdown last week to Kyle Pitts, and they've allowed the 4th most red zone touches, 5th most red zone targets to tight ends this season, but they've only allowed 3 receiving touchdowns to tight ends. So just based on the amount of volume that tight ends are seeing against their defense, they should be giving up more touchdowns than they have been. So we saw some regression kick in for the Falcons last week. Kyle Pitts scored a touchdown. So Austin Hooper, who's going to be the starting tight end for the Las Vegas Raiders because Jesper Horsted was placed on IR. Michael Mayer has not been practicing at all this week. Austin Hooper played 87% of the snaps last week. He's going to play all the snaps. So when the Raiders come into the red zone, he had 1 red zone target last week. He had a season high in targets last week because he played more. I think Austin Hooper's going to score a touchdown this week.
All right. Austin Hooper plus 500 is pretty good number. All right. Welsh, you've got one that's a little bit more sane. So I like this one a little bit more.
Yeah, I brought it back down. We went with the Tanner Hudson insanity last week, but we're going to bring it down to a cash. We are still going to take plus money. I will say I was going to go Deebo here, and I love the Deebo one, but it's minus money. So I wanted to give you a plus money play. So I'm going with the Rashee Rice anytime touchdown, and it's plus 125. Rice has touchdowns in 3 of his last 5 games and 2 of his last 3. He has had 50 targets, I just want to point out, over the last 5 games. 50 targets. Here's what's fun. Rice has the 5th most red zone receptions and an 85% red zone touchdown to target percentage, which is higher than the likes of Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I want you to think about this as well. 5th most red zone receptions, and think of how not involved he was in the first portion of the year. He is the red zone touchdown option as Kelsey has kind of tapered back. It's a good matchup. Rashee Rice plus 125 anytime touchdown.
By the way, my favorite one of the week, of course, I'm on the Christian McCaffrey wagon. Pretty harsh this week. The juice for Christian McCaffrey for 1 touchdown. Do you know what it is? I don't know if you've seen it.
It's like minus 400.
It's got to be minus 3. No, that's exactly
it's minus 400.
It's minus 400 right now on FanDuel.
It's actually a joke.
It's a ridiculous joke. It's minus 400. First time touchdowns plus 230. Last touchdown plus 390. So first touchdown at plus 230. That sounds pretty good to me. I like that one. Also, the anytime at plus 125 you can get as well for plus for. Again,
it is minus 425 on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's
anytime.
Insane.
That's crazy.
I wonder if he's going to score or not. Who knows?
Who knows?
Gee, I wonder. But again, you got to go take 2 touchdowns for him to even get near the plus money on that side. But I think he can get 2. I really do. I feel very good about that. Just to recap what the boys have. Erickson's on to Hooper for a touchdown. Javonte for 2.5 receptions over 22.5 for Bijan. Under Saquon Barkley, 67.5 rushing yards. Under 3.5 receptions for George Kittle. And over Jahmyr Gibbs, 48.5 rushing yards. Welsh is on Rashee Rice to score a touchdown. Nico Collins receiving yards over 56.5. Cooper Kupp receiving yards over 68.5. Under Saquon as well, 67.5 rushing yards, And then Brock Purdy passing yards under 267.5 and over on Deebo's just mere 11.5 rushing yards, the little tiny baby number. So you always look for those little baby numbers too. I saw a little baby number on Greg Dortch this week too. By the way, I was looking at that one. I think it's like 30.5. I saw that on the prop bet cheat sheet. So look on the prop bet cheat sheet because there's some great small numbers there, some great projections. If you haven't utilized that tool yet, use it because it is spectacular. It's over at bettingpros.com or just download the app right now. And remember, if you download the app right now for iOS, you get 3 free days of premium. The perfect time this weekend to start betting smarter, not harder. NFL, college football, NBA, NHL. I don't know. Is that slap fighting thing still going around where people smack each other in the face? If you can bet on that, I guess we could do that here too. Whatever you want to do, it's there for you on Betting Pros. Almost anything at least. But that'll do it for us. However, the story of the game goes on. For the Welsh and Andrew Erickson, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.